I want to start out with saying that I've only told a couple of people in my life this testimony because it's that deep. And why God chose me, I don't know. But as I go through it, you'll see that He obviously has plans for me beyond what He's done so far.
Amen.
I'm starting it out in 1981 when I first got saved at 28 years old. Then in 1990, I lost my wife and 3 kids through a divorce. And of course, I kind of mentally lost it at that point. Because if there was a time when I was obeying the Lord, and I was even getting counseling from an old Christian woman, and everything fell through. I still went to church for a while, but then eventually, like I said, I lost it. I was in the home improvement business, and I was a salesman, owner, had crews that worked for me, and in 2002, I lost everything. In 2004, after having been very successful for an uneducated guy, I ended up in a shelter for a couple of years. In 2003, I asked the Lord, I said, you gave everybody gifts, what did you give me? And the Lord didn't like my attitude because it was pretty chippy at that point. And He didn't answer me. And then in 2005, I think he was around 5, he said, He gave me a special heart that you shall love all mankind. Well, I wasn't feeling too peachy at that point, and I balked at him. What kind of gift was that? But today I can say that is unbelievable, that kind of gift, because, we naturally hate people. And I'm not prejudiced, I'm not racist. But the world we live in is so filthy and terrible, and racism, and I see these people that have these T-shirts that Black Lives Matter. Well, yeah, but my answer is all lives matter. Then in 2008, when you stay at the shelter, they have chapel every night. If you don't go to chapel, you don't eat. And there was a drunk. They weren't supposed to let drunks come in, but this guy had been staying there for so long, they let him in. And he started cussing out the preacher. And that just didn't work with me. So I got up and went over and grabbed him by the shirt like this and said, you either stop it or I'm going to go talk to staff. Well, they had just put a new guy in charge of staff, in charge of all the staff, and he didn't like me because the guy that retired treated me like $1 million, and he was jealous of that. So he went and told staff, and they kicked me out for 30 days. Well, you kick out a person that's homeless for 30 days, you might as well kick them out for a year. I was sleeping underneath awnings to stay out of the rain. That was in 2008. After being homeless for about 2 weeks, the Lord gave me Section 8. That's only God. Only God can do that. I was closer to the Lord then. In 2010, my daughter was graduating from college, and she invited me to go to her graduation. To be honest with you, you know, that's been that was 2010. It's been 11 years. I don't know how I got the money to come to Denver. But I caught a plane and came to Denver, and I went to her graduation. And when I got done doing that, I came back, and I had pain in my arm, my right arm. And I knew from past experience when I was younger that an older guy who had pain in his arm, it was a sign of bad blood flow and a heart attack. Well, I had a really bad doctor, and he told me if I would let him put a stent in me, that I wouldn't have a heart attack. And I said, okay, that's great. 3 days later, December 7th, I have a heart attack because he gave me the wrong blood thinner. Then I went through several surgeries. I almost became completely blind from cataracts. My left knee was going out. I had the heart attack. And then in 2012, I was sitting on the corner of my bed, and I just had knee surgery, and I just had eye surgery. I wasn't going to go walking looking for a church. I mean, I had no transportation. Unlike in Colorado, in Wichita, Kansas, the buses don't run on the weekends. I mean, on Sundays. So, you know, you can't just grab a bus. And in 2012, I was trying to find a Christian station, or, you know, a message or something on Sunday morning, and the Lord came to me and said, I have lengthened your days, and I've increased your faith 100-fold. And if you'll quit smoking, I will heal you. Well, at the time, I wasn't feeling like I needed to be healed, but very little did I know what was going to happen. He told me this on April 29th. On May 29th, I had my second heart attack because the first doctor didn't put in all the stents that were needed. So the second doctor, and I had a different doctor, he put in 2 more stents, so now I have 3 stents in me. And for a couple of days, I was just fine. Then all of a sudden, COPD kicked in, and I could not walk across the street. I couldn't have walked from here to this grocery store over here. And when I went to see the doctors and had them do a test, they said that I had stage 4 COPD. But I hadn't stopped smoking, but the Lord healed me. Then in 2014, my hip went out and I had to have hip surgery. I really wasn't around the right people. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I really wasn't living around the right people, and I got tired. I got tired of the life that I had. I got tired of all the sin that had been in my life. Other than killing somebody or putting a needle in my arm, I've committed just about every sin there is to sin. And I went to the Lord in 2015, and I had gotten tired of it all. I told the Lord, I said, I was giving my life back to Him. I was ready to move into an apartment. I told God, wherever He wants to put me, I'll go. And so I moved onto an apartment off of Topeka and Broadway in Wichita, Kansas. A friend helped me move in. And I was tired when I was done, and I didn't set up the bed. I didn't open up the boxes. I slept in a big recliner that somebody had given me. Now, this is where it gets deep, guys. When I woke up, I was sick and I had tits all over my face. I went to the hospital and they didn't know what I had, and they gave me what I call horse pills. They were that big. I stopped eating. I was a smoker, and I was hardly smoking at all. And I got sicker and sicker still and didn't smoke much. And after 2 weeks, went to see my doctor, and she gave me some other horse pills. And after a month, the horse pills actually melted the flesh where the tit had been on my face. But I was still sick, and I gave up. I'd had enough. So at that point, I was committing suicide. I took 2 horse pills at the same time. And told God that I'm yours now. When I woke up in the recliner, I saw the Lord a long ways off, as though I was looking in a field. And Jesus told me that I gave up on me. But I never stopped believing in Him. And I asked Him why He gave me life again. And He told me because of the special heart that He gave me and what Satan had done to me. He said, you didn't come to me for riches, but for love. You will give your testimony unto all mankind, and you will pray and you will cry with them. Then the Holy Spirit came to me and said, do you understand the crying? And I said, no. And He said, when you go to heaven and the Lord opens up the windows of heaven and you look down, you will see the people who didn't hear you, didn't listen to you, and you will cry. Then He put me through the fire, and all sickness was gone. I was scared when He put me through the fire, but it wasn't hot. It didn't burn me. That's how God cleansed me. He told me not to re-sign my lease. He was sending me abound. When you're on Section 8, you sign your leases. So at the end of my lease, I wouldn't sign it. Later, my cousin Sandy on my stepfather's side, came to Wichita to stay with my sister. She had cancer and she was dying. I lived 2 blocks from the hospital so I could walk to see her. And the first thing that she asked me was, "Will you forgive me for how I treated you?" You see, my mother was date raped. I was a bastard. I told her, "Sure, I forgive you." And I prayed for her and asked God to heal her or take her so she wouldn't go through the pain. This was Friday. On Monday, my sister called me and said to me, "If I wanted to see Sandy, you need to come now." Well, when I got to the hospital on Monday, she was laying in bed like this, but her heart was still pumping. I told Cheryl that I couldn't handle anymore, and I started walking home. And before I got to my apartment, my sister called and said, "She's gone." And I started crying. And the Lord came to me and said, "Why are you crying? Your prayer was answered."
Amen.
Bye-bye.
My cousin had an old van, and my sister everything was left to her. And so my sister sold it to me for $500. When the Lord said He was going to send me a bound, He meant that. He provided everything that was needed. So now I lined up to have Section 8 in Colorado, which ended up being Aurora. I looked for an apartment for 2 months. I slept in my van and I worked day labor. And I then cried unto the Lord and said, "I couldn't do this anymore. If I'm not supposed to be here, then I'm going back." And the next night, the Lord answered my prayer. "You will meet with a black lady named Sybil." And I did the next morning. And in 30 minutes, she had me an apartment.
Wow.
Because she had done it. Because God had done it. I wasn't worried about the money. Because here's another miracle. There was a lady with an organization that I knew, and I told her that I'd got an apartment. I had Section 8. She'd had bad experiences with homeless people and how things didn't pan out. When I told her all of this, she was rather rude to me. You know how it says in the Bible that those that are, I don't quote exact words, but the evil will be used as footstools. Well, she called me up and said, "I've got your money." And she had connections with people that helped out people. And it wasn't just a little money. It was $1,700. $850 deposit, $850 first month's rent. But because I was on Section 8, $850 paid from June to November.
Wow.
When God blesses, He goes all the way.
Amen.
Then after a year, I moved to Colorado Springs. And the Lord came to me and told me that I was to get baptized again. And then I went to a church, Victory World Outreach, and I had never been there before, and the Lord said, you are to be anointed. So here I am, a stranger, going into a church that's got at least 500 people, and I'm saying, you guys got any oil? I need to be anointed. It was a little like a fish out of water, but I did what the Lord wanted. And I had an old man come up to me and said, you're going to do a lot for the Lord. Well, I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do. Then after being there for a couple of years, then I was due to get a new lease, and I felt like the Lord told me to go to Aurora, and I believe God is got other plans to do in my life. I believe He's going to do a revival here in Aurora. I believe He's going to use this church to start it. We're not big, but we're real. God's done a lot in my life. I think after you hear me, have heard me, you understand why I don't go around just telling everybody my testimony. It's not like I'm trying to brag or anything. God's the one that's special. He called me a chosen vessel. He has decided to use me because He knows I'll obey Him. Since I've been here, I've had 7 surgeries on my back, and I'm getting ready to go in for another surgery on my neck. Then after that, then my back. And to anybody that doesn't know that Christ is real, I'm telling you, God is real. Anybody you know, you let them know God is real. It's not a religion. It's not a... It's real. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
Yeah, Barry.